welcome to this session of guided mindfulness, awareness, and compassion practice. We'll go through a sequence of practices, have a short period of each one so that you get introduced to them, reacquainted with them, connected with how the flow goes so that you can do this on your own. And they go from near to far, from close to us to open to the whole universe. So we'll do those sequences. And what we're trying to do with this is synchronize our bodies and minds. Now, our body's always in the here and now. Unless you have a time machine, your body's always in the here and now. But our minds are a time machine and can go to the past, the future, elsewhere in the present. But we function optimally when our minds and bodies are synchronized for whatever task we're going to do, for whatever communication we have. Having body and mind synchronized is the essence of this practice. And then when we do that, we can become aware of our habitual patterns and make choices. If we don't have the space, if we're in a reactive mode always, then it's like a knee-jerk reflex. Somebody says something, we get angry. Somebody says something else, we get interested. Something happens, we get upset or we get happy, and we have this instant reaction based on our habits. Once we have injected some space into the situation, at that point we have a choice and we can respond rather than react. Response means we can choose the direction we go. React means we're pulled in that direction. So in the same way, we're going to be working with our thoughts and our feelings. And when we have a reactive relationship with them, when there's no space, we act as if we are our thoughts, and we act as if our feelings are imperatives. But what we'll find as we practice that we have thoughts, but we are not our thoughts. And when there's a little bit of space between our awareness and the thought that has arisen, then we get to choose how we relate to it, rather than just being swept away by it. So that's going to be the focus of our practice today. Tuning into where we are. And it's something that we can do throughout the day, because this practice is not intended to just, oh, I'm going to do this practice, then it's a little while of feeling good, and then I'm going to go back into my day and start feeling bad about everything. What we want to do is take this practice and say, what did I learn here, and how can I generalize that and spread it across all of my experience? Ultimately, 24/7. So to do that, we need to remind ourselves to check. Where am I? Am I in a reactive mode or a responsive mode? And we can do that throughout the day and just stop. Traditionally in in Zen monasteries, they would have somebody who would ring the temple bell, who was assigned that job for the day, and they would ring it for meals and for the start of practice sessions. But then between practice sessions and between meals, as people were doing their tasks, their work throughout the day, every now and again, not too often, but every now and again, in a random mode, they would ring the temple bell, and it was the signal for everybody to stop. So they'd be going around doing working on their thing, working on the garden, raking the sand, and then suddenly there would be the sound, and everybody would just stop pause, breathe, get grounded for a minute, and then continue on with their day. So it was a reminder. And we can, we don't have somebody ringing the temple bell, but we do have people texting us. So when you get a text, you hear the sound, let that be your reminder. And say, excuse me, and say, oh, stop, breathe, get grounded. Now let's respond to this text rather than react to the text. Doesn't that sound like a good idea? Okay, so that's our ground for discussion. Now, when we're doing these practices, they're to synchronize body and mind so we can function more effectively. But if we're just doing it for ourselves, it's limited. If we're doing it to function more effectively and benefit others as well as ourselves, that's going to be a much more powerful practice. So for every session, we begin that way. We begin by saying something along the lines of, I'm doing this not just for myself, but in order to be able to be of more benefit to others as well. So we set that as our intention. And when we set that as our intention, that we're doing it on behalf of others, if our practice is a little choppy and we find that we're off in thoughts a lot, instead of getting down on ourselves, we go, okay, I'm going to work with this situation rather than just give up, because I'm not just in this for myself. So it carries some power in that way. And then you'll see at the end, we'll reaffirm that intention. So let's establish that intention together in your own mind, in your own thought. And then let's get a good posture. What we want to do for our posture is start with our sit bones and how we're pressing into the chair or the cushion that you're sitting on if you're sitting cross-legged on the floor. Whatever your base is, let your sit bones, left and right, press into the chair. Settle down. Your legs are, if you're in a chair, your feet can be flat on the floor, hip width apart. But if your legs are long and your knees are above your hips, cross your legs gently in front of you so that you're not straining your back or your legs to hold your upright posture. It's good to have the knees a little bit below the hips. From your sit bones, they're extending down. We want our back extending up gently. We want to be upright but not rigid, as if there's a straight line, as if our spine is like a tent pole, which it isn't, it's curved, but a straight line from our tailbone to the back of the top of our head. And you see, I'll turn a little sideways here. You see that if if I'm sitting like this with my chin forward, everything's curved over. If I sit up, but my chin floats up, get kind of spaced out. But if the back of my head is extending straight upward like an extension of my spine, watch what happens to my chin. I didn't pull my chin in, it just came in naturally. And then we have a straight line so our breath can come up through our nostrils, straight down, unimpeded, curvy path, a straight path down to our lungs. And then we can feel the breath coming in as if it's going down the back of our throat and filling our lungs from the back and the bottom up. And then we're really taking a full breath. We'll get to that after we finish the posture. So our arms, after we have our spine upright like a tent pole, we want to let everything hang from that tent pole like canvas from the tent pole before it's pulled out into a tent. So let your arms just hang straight down. Your elbows will be at your sides. Leave your elbows where they are, but swivel your hands palm up so that they're palm down on top of each thigh. They'll be just behind your knees. If you reach forward, it curves your shoulders forward. Don't artificially pull back. And having our firm back of our spinal column, we now want to have an open front. So you can find a spot in the middle of your sternum. It's about 4 fingers width from the notch at the top of your rib cage. There's a notch right there, and about 4 fingers, you'll find a little tender spot right there. At the center of your sternum, imagine that that is moving forward and upward direction, like that. Like the image of somebody who's proud. So there's a quality of dignity to this posture and uprightness. And you'll see when that moves just a little bit, I mean, it's going to be a quarter of an inch moving up, your shoulders naturally come back and align with your ears, your hips. Everything's aligned vertically that way. If your chest collapses, everything falls apart. So just up and forward a tiny bit with your breastbone, and everything falls into place. Open chest, your breathing becomes easier too. Your lips are just slightly parted. If your jaw relaxes, you don't want it hanging open. Just let it relax, but bring your lips so that they're just barely touching or just slightly parted. Sometimes people ask what to do with their tongue. If it's comfortable to just rest naturally the way it is, that's fine. For some people, it's natural for it to float up and rest just the tip of your tongue against the upper palate, just behind your upper teeth. And then you're mainly breathing in and out through your nose. Now, having taken that posture, let your eyes gently close. And as we said, we want the spine like a tent pole, but the rest of our body hanging from that with no more tension than we need to hold our posture. So scan for that tension, top down. Let it soften everything, eyes, ears, cheekbones, jaw. If you need to move it a little bit, that's fine. Shoulders, just let them hang there. Use a little tension to hold your chest up, just gently, very gently. The great golf instructor, Harvey Panic, said, when I tell you to take an aspirin, I mean 1 or 2, not the whole bottle. So all of our adjustments are very small. Shoulders, chest, shoulder blades, upper arms. Let go of the tension. Rib cage all around. Deep belly, lower back, hips and pelvis, thighs, forearms and hands, knees, calves, ankles, and feet. Now, starting at your feet, instead of feeling like your mind is up here in your head, and your body's just following along, move your mind into your toes. Feel your toes. You can wiggle them a little bit. We want to fully inhabit our whole body rather than just being a head with a body carrying it around. Feel your arches and insteps. You can move a little bit. Heels, ankles. Get into your feet. That's what's going to give you your balance. That's what's going to carry you forward. It's where your power comes from the ground up. Let your ankles roll a little bit. Flex your calf muscles. You actually have shin muscles too. Fully feel your lower legs, knees, and your thighs, hamstrings and thighs, the big muscles of your legs. And go back to your sit bones. That's actually where your legs connect to your torso. Just shift your legs a little bit back and forth. Push your right leg forward and pull your left upper leg back. And feel how your legs connect into your pelvic girdle, into your hips. Feel your weight. Is it more on your left sit bone or your right sit bone? Just shift back and forth until you find you're neither left nor right. That's where you have center. Your legs are connected to your torso. Feel your lower back. Hips, lower back, deep belly. You might find extra tension there. Just let it soften. But feel the depth of your torso. You have the width and the height, but we're not two-dimensional beings. We have the thickness front to back. Feel your rib cage all around that way. The distance between your breastbone and your spine. Your lungs are in that space. There has to be space there. Now you have your shoulders, and that's where your arms connect to your torso. Move your shoulders forward and back, right and left. Right forward, left back, left forward, right back. That's how your limbs are connected to your torso. Everything's working in sequence. Feel your shoulders. Again, that straight line of your spine, chest slightly up. Hips, shoulders, ears, all in line. Back of your head gently extending upwards so your chin comes in naturally. Now we're fully embodied. We're going to connect our mind and our body using our breath. If your eyes were closed, just open them about halfway. If they were open, lower your gaze so your lids are half open. Look down under your eyelids and see that you're sitting in space. Just a few feet in front and to the sides. Rather than looking at something, and you want to turn away from your monitor like I am, so that you have some space between you and where your vision rests. And rather than looking at whatever your vision is resting on, soften your gaze, and it's as if you're just seeing the space that you're sitting in rather than looking at something. And within that space, the air is coming in, and it feels like it's filling your lungs, but it feels like it's filling your torso because your diaphragm is pushing down. And just feel your torso filling as the breath comes in, emptying as the breath goes out. Posture, breathing. That's going to be the anchor for our mindfulness because that's all happening in the present moment. Let your body breathe itself. You don't have to control your breathing, just observe it. We'll do this for a few minutes, and if your mind wanders off into thoughts, which the mind does, and you may be surprised at how quickly it goes, when you realize that you're not here, you're not with your posture, with your breathing, at that moment, you're already back in the present because you've realized you were off in a daydream. Just smile and go, wandering, which is shortcut for I was lost in thoughts. I'm already back. Now return to what the object of attention was, which is my posture, the feeling of filling as the breath comes in, internal sensation, the feeling of emptying as the breath goes out. We'll do that for a couple of minutes. As the gong fades, raise your gaze. Look further out. Open up to the space in the room. Soften your gaze. Again, rather than looking at something where your eyes are resting, it's as if you're seeing the space between you and that. And not just in front, but to the sides as well. Open up. To facilitate this opening, imagine that as your breath goes out, your mind is opening up to the space. In the same way, it's a metaphor. The breath goes out and mixes with the air in the room and diffuses further and further and further until it's completely mixed. In the same way, let your awareness go out as the breath goes out. Open up further and further until your mind, your awareness, is completely mixed with the space in front and around you. Out, open, and then rest in that openness. Let the body breathe in by itself. The body's breathing out by itself. You don't have to push your breath out. Throughout this process, you're letting the body breathe rather than you making it breathe. As the breath goes out, just open up. Open, out, open, and rest in that spaciousness. The body breathes in by itself. Go out further, open further. Rest in the spaciousness. Further out, further open, rest in spaciousness. Again, if your mind wanders and you realize it, smile and go, wandering. Code for, I was lost in thoughts. Now I'm back. Out, open, rest. Do that for a couple of minutes. As the gong fades, you can move a little bit, refresh. In the tradition I was trained, very often, uh, sometimes there are long periods of practice, but very often people do very short sessions, but do lots of them. So you practice for 5, even 10 minutes, and then just stop, drop the practice, take a fresh start, start over again with that or an alternate or a sequence of practices. So now refresh, take your posture again, and looking straight ahead at horizon level. Breath goes out, opens to the space, and then just rest in that open spaciousness. Let go of the breath for now. And without moving your eyes, let your awareness explore your field of vision. Open up your peripheral vision side to side, top to bottom. And just notice so many colors, shapes, and shades of light and dark. The varieties of light that's coming into your eyes. Open your hearing in all directions. Listen for sounds coming into your ears. High and low pitch, loud and soft, especially near and far. Listen for sounds as far away as you can hear. That's your open awareness. Leaving your eyes open, tune into your bodily sensations. Head to toe, subtle movements as the breath goes in and out. The air on the skin of your hands and face. How your clothes feel. The pressure of your sit bones on the seat, feet on the floor. You might even feel your heartbeat. More subtle would be smells in the room or tastes. But you don't have a direct object for that right now. And finally, in our perception, we perceive our own thoughts. So open your mind, your peripheral vision of your mind, and notice as thoughts appear, take form, linger, short or long, and then disappear, replaced by another thought. There may be gaps between the thoughts. Now, one more breath out, open, spaciousness, and let your mind move from perception to perception without directing it if you can. Just whatever takes your attention, explore that for a bit and see what's next. thoughts, bodily sensations, vision, sounds. We'll do that for a couple minutes. And now, as the gong fades, imagine that your awareness opens even further. Look above the horizon. Imagine that your awareness extends out to the sky, beyond the sky. If it's the night sky, it's out the sky. That black sky is beyond the stars. It's infinite. Go out, out, farther and farther, until your awareness is as big as the universe. Just rest for a moment in that infinite spaciousness. And finally, we do a contemplation regarding others, remembering our intention. And this is a compassion practice, kindness and compassion. Begin by thinking of someone you care about, someone you love, and imagine that as you breathe in, you could relieve them of whatever suffering they're going through. Imagine you can gather that in your tender heart of compassion and from there transform it and radiate out to them happiness, kindness. But first, as you take away their suffering, how does that make you feel? Doesn't it make you happy to be able to free them from suffering? Feel that happiness in you and extend that out and share it with them. Take their suffering, feel how happy that makes you, send that out to them. Breathe in, taking their suffering. Breathe out, sending them your happiness. And as best you can, take that feeling and extend it to as many people, as many creatures, living beings as you can. Imagining that you could liberate all of them from the turmoil, anxiety, strain, struggle, pain, and suffering they're going through. And how happy that would make you to be able to free beings from that suffering, because we all want to be free from suffering. We all want happiness. Feel that happiness in yourself and send that out to all of them. And you yourself are one of those beings. So include yourself as you breathe in all the suffering into your tender heart of compassion. They're all liberated and it transforms into your happiness at freeing yourself and others. And send that happiness out to yourself and the rest of the world. Let go of your imagination, of your contemplation. Come back to your body, your breathing, your posture. Present, here and now in the space in which you're sitting. And we conclude the session reiterating the intention we had when we began. And you can repeat after me or put it in your own words. May the practice I have just done be of benefit to others as well as myself. And if so inspired to cultivate or express your generosity, you could even say something like, may the practice I have just done be of even more benefit to others than to myself. The more we give, the more we receive. So thank you for participating in this session of mindfulness, awareness, and compassion.